As Mila looked into the mirror, her reflection was noticeably out of sync with reality. Her eyes opened wide with shock. Her reflection imitated poorly. The arbitrator stepped back, away from the mirror. Her reflection cocked its head slightly, letting its mouth open and its jaw hang loose. The thing behind the mirror screamed silently with hatred. All at once, a crack snaked its way through the mirror, forming the 8-pointed star of chaos undivided. Infernal secrets flooded into Mila's unprepared mind as malefic red light erupted from the cracks and into reality. The thing in the mirror reached a hand out towards Mila, somehow breaching the threshold of the mirror. The hand that should not be pulsed with 1,000 colors at once as it inched closer to Mila's face. She could no longer hold back the scream that was building in the back of her throat. Yet, as her shriek pierced the air, the mirror and the aberration within shattered all at once, leaving Mila alone in a room full of broken glass. She took a moment to recall all the awful events that led up to this. Somehow, it all went back to that hoarder and a stupid sword. Welcome, one and all, to part 4 of How to Run a Heist. Today, we are talking about the aftermath of the heist. So the players have escaped from the location, and the authorities are, at least temporarily, off their trail. So what now? Your aftermath session actually has the potential to be just as memorable, if not more memorable, than the heist itself. As I said, my favorite heist stories are actually just the ones that are about the aftermath, not about the heist itself. So, congratulations. Today, we are learning how to reenact Reservoir Dogs with RPG characters. So, the first thing you're going to need is a designated place for the PCs to regroup, and make sure they know about this ahead of time. Make sure you told them where this is in the sessions leading up to this. So I'm going to assume it's a safe house of some sort, although it might be one of the players' houses, actually, or their main base, or it could even be a cave or something of the like. So long as you have somewhere specific and structured they are supposed to return to. You might choose to save or to map out your safe house when you are doing all the planning and stuff for the entire adventure arc, really. But I certainly didn't. I did mine between session 2 and 3, and really all my players needed to know prior to that point was that it was an old, like, manor house that was now kind of decrepit and had a few rooms where they could all stay in. That was really all they needed to know. So yeah, you can draw that out. It should be fairly quickly. Just a basic floor plan should be all you need, depending on how in-depth you're going to be. Okay, so cool. Now you have your safe house, and if everything went right, then everything went wrong last session. And your players don't know why. You will want to have your players start to return slowly over time, largely for 2 reasons. It provides some good narrative pacing, and it's also a very good trope from a lot of these heist movies, is as people are getting back, all those people have some more information, and that will help everyone piece together what happened and see everyone's experiences as things went wrong. For example, I mean, in my game, the first person who got back, was on the inside when people started swarming in, but they didn't know the context. They didn't know Romulus was leading them or anything. They just knew that suddenly there were soldiers and they had to get away. When the sniper got back, he was able to say, yeah, he left the party. He changed into a military uniform. They were all across the street. They were already there. They were ready and waiting. So players are going to be able to answer each other's questions as they arrive. I would say actually space them out in terms of arrival by about 10 to 15 minutes of not like in-game time, but like for the players within about 10 to 15 minutes. It's going to be nicely spaced out, and make sure you prioritize players getting back before NPCs getting back, because you don't want players to be sitting there for way too long while bored. And let the players know that not all of them are going to be entering the game right away, so make sure they've got some snacks and stuff if they're going to have to be sitting there for a half hour before they enter. For the most part, players are going to be okay with that, so long as you communicate with them. So, I mean, for me, it was all the people in the military vehicle, which I think was mostly the player character of Marcellus, who was the driver character, and a few NPCs he had with them. Then after that, it was the sniper and his partner. And then after that, it was the two PCs who snuck away from the estate who made it in. Then after that, it was the NPCs that were in the escape vehicle. They finally threw off the police and made it back. And then lastly, there was one NPC who made it back on his own, because people had lost track of him during the heist. Now, I made sure that it was this character who they lost track of, largely to create suspense and suspicion and stuff, because this was the NPC that my players were the most suspicious of. So I made sure there was some tension there, because he was the last to arrive. He couldn't defend himself or anything. Everyone was just going, oh, that guy, he ratted us out, oh. So yeah, now that people have started arriving, if your players were not suspecting that someone had backstabbed them before, you should plant that in their minds now. They will have NPCs with them if you force them to work with the party, which you probably should have, and maybe they had some NPCs working with them before. But NPCs, if the players don't automatically assume there was someone who backstabbed them, the NPCs should believe that is the case, and they should start accusing people. I virtually guarantee that as soon as a couple player characters get accused of being traitors, they're going to start accusing other people instead. They're going to say, no, there has to have been a traitor. How else would they have been there? How else would they have known? And I think it was you who did it. And they said, and the player characters would say, no, I didn't do it. And if there was a traitor, it would have been that guy. So essentially the first hour of the game should be player characters arriving, this mounting mystery of, you know, who done it, who is it, who caused this all to go wrong. Even if the answer is no one did, maybe the safe house was wiretapped or something. Maybe there was no traitor. But point is, they should be kind of at each other's throats. The first hour should be people just accusing each other, getting into fights, threatening violence, in some cases actually killing each other. It's all just about RP and tension during that first hour. And eventually, the last person is going to arrive, and you should make sure that whoever is coming in the last group, I would advise let some some NPCs get scattered, and when they come in, they will have some more information that the players did not previously have. And that should be kind of the final puzzle piece. That'll be the key to figuring out what actually happened. For my group, because I'm a big fan of Reservoir Dogs, the guy who came in last, the guy who they suspected, he came in with a hostage over his shoulder. Because again, Reservoir Dogs, I love that movie. He came in with a hostage, and the players immediately set about interrogating this guy, and they found that it was not one of these many people who they were accusing. It actually was Clancy. They found out that Clancy was possessed and betrayed them, which turned out to be a double whammy of surprises, because as soon as the word possession was thrown out there, the leader of these resistance people they were working with pulled out their inquisitorial badge and said, all right, this is Inquisition duty now. Then the players were kind of stunned for a second. They pulled out their badges and they were like, what's going on? So they kind of had to figure that out. So once everyone has kind of figured out the mystery, and you should be able to, you should put the players into a position where they can figure out the majority of the mystery or all of the mystery before leaving their safe house. So once your players have figured out exactly what it was that went wrong, and maybe it was nothing malicious, maybe it was just a series of coincidences, and maybe it was just a bunch of minor things happened. They snowballed into other stuff, butterfly effect. If that's the way you're going, I feel like that would be really hard to do, but you could probably pull off a butterfly effect kind of twist as to why it went wrong. But I think you'll have to be really on your game to pull that off, and maybe you shouldn't do that the first time you run a heist. But yeah, so once your players have figured out roughly what went wrong, don't let them rest. Don't let them solve the issue right away. You want to immediately put the pressure on them. Whatever that means in the context of your game. Maybe the guards found their safe house and they attack. Or maybe the traitor, if there was one, and they were in the safe house with them, maybe that guy summons a bunch of minions and then flees, leaving the players to fight the minions. And yeah, so I mean, if you can keep this entire session in the safe house, that works very well thematically, but if that just doesn't fit your story, that's okay. Don't feel too bound to it. In my session, Clancy, as soon as they found out, they tied him up. The Inquisitor drew a bunch of runes and wards and stuff to try and bind the demon down so that it wouldn't escape. Then she ran off with a few of her crew to go round up some ingredients and stuff to perform an exorcism on Clancy to get the demon out. Except then, while the Inquisitor was gone, Clancy kind of flexed his newfound psychic might and opened up a tear in the warp, turning the house into like this house of madness. Each door in the house was scrambled and led to somewhere random in the house. I basically drew out a second version of the house with doors leading to random places across the house. I filled the house with different psychic phenomenon, including the one that was in the intro that I read to you guys, and also filled it with minor warp creatures, little lesser demons and stuff. So essentially, I actually turned the safe house into a dungeon. Now that example is very specific to my own personal game. You will probably not be able to do exactly that. However, you could always pull off a similar effect by, say, they discover as part of the twist that there were tunnels underneath the house and they have to get through those, and the tunnels are a dungeon. Or there are hidden secrets throughout the safe house they didn't know about. There's other ways you can do it to fundamentally turn the safe house into a dungeon. There are ways to pull that off. Eventually, your players will have dealt with the adventure you threw at them. And now they are ready to fulfill their last objective, which is usually just dealing with the traitor or resolving whatever caused the plan to go wrong. Remember, if it was just like their house was wiretapped, it's just find the wiretaps and get rid of those. And that's that. But in my case, yeah, they finished exploring the house. They reinforced the wards that were binding reality, and then they waited for the Inquisitor to get back and perform the exorcism. Clancy was saved. Happy ending. However, there were loose ends, and your game probably will as well. The governor, of course, never died in this whole thing. He still had his army, and as soon as he realized his plans were discovered, he put them into full force and tried to do his secret plan before anyone could stop him. So then they spent another adventure arc stopping Governor Romulus's plan to engulf the system in a warp storm. So I actually think you can probably do very similar things. The Heist adventure is a great hook to start your next adventure. Now that they have this thing, they've met a bunch of people who are the bad guys and they need to stop. How are they going to do that? It's actually also a really good way to introduce a nemesis, because the bad guy, you're probably heisting in the first place because you can't kill the bad guy right now. So it's a way to introduce the villain, actually have the players meet the bad guy face to face without your bad guy dying. So it's a really good way to introduce a villain for the first time. And they're gonna get away almost certainly, so they can come back. And actually with that, we have reached the end of our guide. There's going to be one more part in which we design our own new fresh heist adventure for Pathfinder. I'm going to release that at the end of the weekend, and that will be a heist adventure, if you recall, where we're going to be stealing a crown from a dragon's lair. I'm going to design it to be a standalone adventure, yet I think it will actually lend itself very well to being part of a larger campaign, and it should be very easy to modify it for that purpose. You can also use it as the opening adventure for starting a brand new campaign of your design. So, thank you for watching my series. I hope to see all of you again as we design our dragon lair. So I've been hounding you guys this entire time to subscribe and let me know if you want to see more videos. I guess we're going to see how that goes at the time of recording. I actually have not even posted the first video yet. So yeah, if we have a few hundred subscribers by the time everything's wrapped up with this series, then I'll know that I've got an audience and I'll start working on the next series. Maybe running horror games or something, or maybe I'll keep going on running different genres of RPGs, maybe. I don't know, that seems like a good shtick. I don't think other people are doing that, and I've got a lot to say on that. So either way, we're just spitballing ideas for now, but either way, thanks for joining me. This has been a ton of fun to do, and if I don't see you again on YouTube, I'll see you around on the internet. Thanks for watching.